I never wanted to live among homeowners with clipboards and bylaws. I belonged to the pines, to the land that echoed with the sound of hooves and wind, not lawnmowers and passive-aggressive newsletters. But fate isn't polite. It doesn't ask. If you're ready, it just hands you keys and a dead man's boots. The land wasn't just property, it was legacy. My grandfather, Walt Hollis, carved every inch of it with his own hands. A 70-acre ridge on the edge of the Highwood Bluffs. The cabin he built stood like a sentinel, weathered but proud. I inherited it after his passing and took up where he left off, living off the grid, tending the woods, and guarding the perimeter from what most folks in town dismissed as old hunters' tales. But I knew better. Every fall, wild boars came down from the hills. Big ones, aggressive. You didn't see them, you heard them, grunting through underbrush, rooting up earth like rototillers on a warpath. My grandfather used to say, "Boars don't care who owns the land, they go where they want. The only thing that keeps them back is a man who knows how to hunt." That man was me, or at least, I used to be. Things changed the day Ridgewood Estates crept over the ridge. What started as a few overpriced homes with perfect picket fences ballooned into a sprawling HOA development. Then came the signs, the flyers, the friendly notices about noise, fencing, and approved exterior aesthetics. I kept to myself. Let them pretend their bylaws stretched into my grandfather's woods. I didn't trim my hedges, I didn't paint my cabin warm beige, and I sure as hell didn't attend their community potlucks. Still, I was cordial. I waved when I saw them. I let it be, until she showed up. Karen Withers, newly elected HOA president, platinum hair that never moved, lip gloss that could blind a hawk, and an attitude that made you feel like she was always smelling something sour. She approached me one morning while I was loading my truck, rifle slung across my back, camo duffel at my feet. "What's all this, Mr. Hollis?" she asked, arms folded tightly across her HOA windbreaker hunting gear. I replied, keeping my voice even. Her nose wrinkled like I'd spit on her tulips. "That violates Ridgewood Ordinance 12.6. No dangerous equipment or weapons allowed on HOA property." "This isn't HOA property," I said. "It's mine." She held up a clipboard like it was a legal decree. "Actually, our records show this edge parcel falls under shared jurisdiction. You're within the buffer zone of the community line." I didn't argue. I knew the law better than she did. The buffer zone was still my land. But she didn't come for facts, she came for control. Later that day, while I was out mending a fence along the northern boundary she struck, I came back to find my cabin violated, doors wide open, gear missing, and a laminated notice nailed to the front beam like a scarlet letter. Confiscation due to HOA violations, items seized, firearms, trapping devices, unauthorized outdoor equipment. They'd taken everything. My scoped rifle, my scent blockers, my boar snares, even my grandfather's field maps. A smug voicemail from Karen followed. "We've removed hazardous items for the safety of the community. If you wish to contest the seizure, submit Form 117A to the Compliance Review Board." "Thank you." I stared at my empty gear shelf, my hands clenched into fists. I wasn't just angry, I was staggered. They didn't know what they'd done. They thought I was a problem, a gun-toting hermit playing soldier in the woods. But I was the reason their kids could ride bikes past dusk. I was the reason their pets hadn't been gutted. Every year, I kept the wild out with patience, strategy, and a rifle. Every year the boars tested the line, and every year I held it. But now the line was open, and nature doesn't wait for a Form 117A. The first sign came 3 days later, early morning, just after a heavy rain. A shriek tore through the woods, sharp and human. I stepped onto my porch, heart hammering. Then came the yells, panicked, jumbled, the kind people make when they see something they weren't built to understand. I followed the sound to the tree line above Ridgewood's eastern cul-de-sac. That's where I saw the Hendersons' backyard torn to ruin. Flower beds shredded, the sod peeled like a carpet. In the middle of the destruction, Mr. Henderson knelt, trying to calm his dog, which bled from a deep gash across its side. I crouched by the tracks. The hoofprints were unmistakable, heavy, wide, and deep. 3 adults at least, maybe more. Boars, full-grown and bold. They weren't probing anymore, they'd crossed the line. Later that day, I showed up at the HOA community office with a mud-streaked pawprints on my phone. Karen sat behind a white oak desk, sipping iced tea like she was vacationing in a crisis. "Those tracks were 6 feet from your residence patio," I said. "That's no coincidence." She gave a slow, syrupy blink. "We've already filed a complaint with animal control." "Animal control," I repeated, stunned. "They'll be lucky if they even see these things, let alone stop them." Karen set her tea down. "Jack, I understand you're passionate, but this is a civilized neighborhood. We have protocols. Protocols won't stop tusks." I snapped. "I know these animals. I've tracked them for years. They're testing the territory now, looking for food. If they don't meet resistance, they'll multiply, and next time, it won't be a dog that gets torn open." She pursed her lips. "So what exactly are you proposing?" "That we arm the neighborhood. I'm proposing you give me back what you took so I can fix the problem." Karen shook her head, folding her hands with finality. That's not possible. The confiscated items have been secured in off-site storage pending legal review. We can't just reverse a board decision because of muddy footprints. I leaned forward. You think this is about some gear? It's about timing. Every day you delay, the odds of a child getting mauled go up. Something flickered in her eyes, uncertainty, maybe even fear. But then the smirk returned. Let's not be dramatic, she said coolly. We've scheduled a pest control service for Friday. Friday, I repeated, deadpan. It's Tuesday, Karen. She waved me off like a solicitor. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Hollis. We've got it handled. She didn't believe me. She didn't want to believe me. That's the thing about people like Karen with enough rules and insulation. They forget the world still has teeth. By Thursday night, the boars hit the Parkers' yard. They came in low and fast, tore through the privacy hedge like it was paper. A surveillance camera caught blurry shapes darting between garden lights. Then the terrified screams of a teenager who'd stepped outside to grab her phone charger from the car. No one slept easy after that emergency. HOA emails flooded in. Parents demanded explanations. Rumors swirled: feral pigs, mountain lions, escaped livestock, but I knew I always had. Still, they didn't call me, not officially, not yet. Instead, Karen posted a neighborhood alert. Greater than Deer residence has experienced minor disturbances due to wildlife intrusion. Please keep pets indoors and avoid wooded areas. Wildlife services have been contacted. Thank you for your patience. Minor disturbances, that's what she called a 100-pound animal charging at 15 miles an hour. So I waited, not out of pettiness but to teach them something my grandfather taught me: when you ignore nature's warnings, it doesn't grow quieter, it grows bolder. The very next night, I was jolted awake by the sound of breaking glass. From my back window, I could see Ridgewood flickering with chaos lights snapping on across the ridge, distant shouting, and one house, down near the retention pond with a wide boar-shaped hole punched straight through its patio door. I threw on my boots, heart thundering. I knew that house, it was Karen's. I found Karen Withers standing barefoot in her torn-up backyard, cradling a cordless phone like it could protect her. Her white robe was streaked with mud, and her platinum hair, usually styled to perfection, hung in soaked strands against her face. Is it gone? She whispered as I approached through the tall grass. I didn't answer right away. The boar had broken through the sliding door, routed through her kitchen, and toppled an entire bookshelf before retreating. Glass crunched under my boots as I scanned the prints left in the floorboards. They were larger than before, heavier. Same herd, but now the lead male was asserting dominance. That meant worse was coming. Karen's voice trembled. I called 911. They said they'd alert animal control, but they didn't come. They won't, I said. They're not equipped for this. She blinked at me, her face pale. The thing was in my house. It destroyed everything. I thought they were just pests. They're predators, I said quietly, and you left the door wide open. That silenced her. For once she had no quip, no ordinance to quote, just the creeping realization that her rules meant nothing out here. I need your help, she finally said, swallowing her pride like gravel. I'll do whatever it takes. I studied her. The fear was real now, no smugness, no control, just a woman standing on the edge of her manicured world, realizing the wild had teeth. I want my gear returned, all of it, unharmed. She nodded quickly. Done. And I want a written declaration that your HOA has no authority over my land. No ordinances, no patrols, no jurisdiction. Permanent. Her jaw tensed. Even cornered. She was calculating. You have 3 more families with kids near the woods, I added. You don't have time to negotiate. She exhaled, defeated. Fine, I'll make it happen. Publicly she looked up. What I want: the retraction posted, HOA bulletin, website, newsletter, full page, you name me by name. You admit fault. She hesitated. That'll cause chaos. The board will let them scream. The alternative is more blood on your sidewalks. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she nodded once curtly. Fine, you'll have it by morning. It wasn't about vengeance. Not entirely. It was about making sure no one like her ever ignored a warning again. Because the woods don't give second chances. By dawn, my gear was delivered in black storage tubs. A single guard from their security team helped unload it, eyes wide like he'd seen a ghost. I wasted no time. The traps went up first, buried snares around Ridgewood's perimeter, old boar trails mapped and baited. I placed scent markers with synthetic predator, urine wolves, mostly unstrung aluminum wind chimes in the outer woods to create unsettling noise. Then I hiked deep into the thickets, past the cedar break, where I suspected the den had relocated. Sure enough, the signs were there: fresh scat, torn bark, and mud wallows still steaming. They hadn't retreated. They dug in that night. I sat alone in my tree stand, gear in hand, scope dialed in. Wind in my favor. At 1:13 a.m., I saw them, 7 shapes slinking through the brush. The lead male was monstrous, easily over 250 pounds, with scars down his flank and a broken tusk. He paused at the edge of the baited zone, sniffing the air. Then he moved. I waited. Patience was survival. Let him commit. A second boar stepped forward, then a third. That was my moment. One shot cracked through the trees. The lead male dropped. Instantly the others scattered, grunting in fury and fear. But the line had been drawn again. By sunrise, I had photographic proof of the takedown and evidence the herd had dispersed. I sent them to Karen with no message attached. The photos spoke loud enough. A few hours later, I received a new alert in my inbox. The same HOA bulletin that once accused me now read: "We formally recognize Jack Hollis as an essential steward of the Ridgewood perimeter and the rightful, independent owner of his family land. All prior citations have been voided and retracted. Ridgewood HOA extends its gratitude for his brave service." Below that was a photo of Karen, hair freshly done, smile tight and professional. But the eyes told a different story. She knew the truth now. The woods don't bend to bylaws, and I was no longer the outsider. I was the shield. Spring came late that year, as if the land itself was holding its breath. The frost melted slow, leaving behind the churned scars of battle trenches where the boars had rooted. Patches of earth stripped clean, wooden fences snapped like twigs, but the attacks stopped. Since the night I dropped the lead male, the herd hadn't returned. The remaining boars scattered back into the higher bluffs, where they belonged, far from porch lights and backyard grills. For the first time in weeks, Ridge estates slept soundly. I didn't. Peace, after all, comes at a price. Not just vigilance, but memory. And folks have a habit of forgetting what nearly destroyed them. That's why I built the post, a solid red cedar beam, driven into the ridge at the border where HOA property ended and my land began. Mounted at the top was the broken tusk from the lead male, cleaned and polished, pointing west into the woods. It wasn't a warning to the animals, it was a message to the people. This is where your world ends. Beyond this point, nature answers to no one but herself. One morning, as I was adjusting the mount, I heard soft footsteps behind me. Karen this time. No clipboard, no manicured smugness. Just a woman carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a folder in her other hand. She stood beside me, looking at the tusk. "It's grim," she said. "It's truth," I replied. She nodded, then handed me the folder. "This is the signed land release. Notarized. The HOA waives all claims permanently." I opened it, stamped, sealed, legal, and final. "Thank you," I said. She sipped her coffee, avoiding eye contact. Some of the board members weren't happy about it, then let them move. Karen exhaled through her nose, half amusement, half surrender. "We thought we were building a community. Rules, order, safety. You built a bubble," I said, "and bubbles pop." We stood in silence, the wind moving softly through the trees. Then she said something I didn't expect. "You were right about everything, and I was wrong." I turned to her. "Why say that now?" She looked down the hill at her own house, still missing its patio door, the inside half gutted from the boar's rampage. "Because fear teaches faster than rules." I didn't answer. She didn't need me to. That's the thing about real change. Comes not from being told, but from surviving the lesson. In the weeks that followed, things shifted in Ridgewood. Fewer passive-aggressive flyers, more quiet gestures, neighbors waving without flinching, parents asking how to track scat or spot danger signs in the woods. Some even came to my weekend workshops where I taught the basics of wildlife awareness. Karen. She showed up to every single one, took notes, asked questions, never interrupted. She'd learned the hard way, but she had learned the community didn't crown me with any title. No ceremonies, no medals, but they respected the boundary now, and more importantly, they respected me. I didn't need to remind them why. Every night, the wind still carried the sounds of the forest owls hunting, coyotes yipping, the rustle of things unseen, but it stopped short of the cedar post. The animals knew the line, and so did the people. One evening, just before dusk, a boy, maybe 12, came up the hill with his father. They'd been at one of the workshops. The boy held a hand-carved whistle I'd given him for spotting boars. By sound, he looked at the tusk, then at me. "Is it true you protected the whole neighborhood with just one shot?" I chuckled. It wasn't just the shot. It was knowing when to take it. He nodded, like he understood, and I realized maybe he did. The land teaches, if you listen. It punishes arrogance, but it rewards respect. As they walked back down the hill, I sat on the cabin steps, the red of the sunset brushing the treetops. I cleaned my rifle, checked the traps, watched the ridgeline for movement. Because peace is a fragile thing out here, and I've learned to never leave the gate open again.